Hi, I'm Miro from New Zealand, and I'll just set up my PowerPoint now. Um, Here we go. Can you see?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this is just a short little presentation I've made, introducing both myself and my nation, New Zealand. I went to the World Scout Jamboree, and since then I've been in contact with the GG Summer School platform. So hello everyone. Okay. So I'll start. In introduction of myself, for those of you who haven't encountered me through the GG Summer School platform, I'm Miro Thomas Arison. I'm 17 years old and I'm a student at Wellington High School in the capital of New Zealand, Wellington. It's a public school. It's really good. I enjoy reading books on philosophy and military history, studying geography, debating, and rock climbing. And I'm also a senior scout in New Zealand, which was how I was able to visit South Korea for the World Scout Jamboree. And so there's some photos of me rock climbing with some mates, and that photo on the right is of me in New Zealand's Parliament when I debated in the debating chamber. There's some photos of my life. I play football. A lot of my friends are international students. I spent quite a lot of time in New Zealand politics, debating. I enjoy fishing. That's my cat. His name's Toasty. That's all I really have to say about this. Sorry. As an introduction for New Zealand, for those of you who aren't aware, I mean, I'm sure we've got some really savvy geographic students in here. We're a small nation in the South Pacific, comprised of two major islands and hundreds of minor islands, both near and further away in our extended economic zone. These islands are pretty sparsely populated. We only have about 5 million citizens, and a majority of the population lives in the cities of Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. New Zealand is blessed by pristine landscapes and fertile land. So a very large part of our GDP is export agriculture. So we're actually quite a rich agrarian country, which is quite unusual globally. And that mostly looks like exporting milk powder, specifically to Asian countries. On the global stage, we're a bit more aloof than some other members of the Western Bloc, such as the United States or Australia. We like to forge our own path between neutrality and interventionism. So we don't usually participate in global coalitions or military interventions. And we have a very rigid anti-nuclear policy, which we enforce, where no nuclear material is to be brought into New Zealand or its extended economic zone. In the capital of Wellington, where I live, it's a bustling port city and it's sustained by our multicultural population. And a fun fact about New Zealand that you might not be aware of is that we're the only capital city in the world where biodiversity is increasing. And some famous New Zealanders who you might have heard of include Edmund Hillary, first man to climb Mount Everest, Jacinda Ardern, she was our ex-prime minister in 2020, and Peter Jackson, who owns Weta Workshop and directed the Lord of the Ring movies, among other movies. So we got some photos. So I'll go clockwise. So starting in the top right, this is considered one of the most stunning aspects of New Zealand's geography. This is part of the Fiordland archipelago, which is a large number of fjords formed millions of years ago by glaciers that has now been flooded by the South Pacific Ocean, and it's pretty much untouched. I think some areas of it are still uncharted, and it's pretty well renowned for its stunning vistas, stunning views. Below that, this is probably, I would call this in the bottom right, I would call this the stereotypical New Zealand landscape. We've got fertile floodplains, mainly used for farming, with low density developments around that area. And then in the background, pretty much anywhere in New Zealand, you'd be able to see snow-capped mountains. And in that photo is Mount Taranaki, or Mount Egmont, which is a dormant supervolcano. And then in the bottom left, we've got a photo of Wellington, which is where I live. And Wellington is actually situated along the Alpine Fault, which means one part of it is quite flat, and then it immediately starts rising up to mountains which are undevelopable. And it's actually a threat for our future urban planning, as since we're situated on this fault, it could at any point be subjected to a large earthquake, which may level the entire city. So that's a unique factor of our ecological and geographical circumstances. The history of my nation, it begins with the arrival of the Maori people from Polynesia around 1300 AD, so about 800, 900 years ago. They developed a rich culture based on tribal society and close ties to nature. Matauranga Maori was one of the earliest forms of sustainable resource management. In 1642, a Dutch explorer named Abel Tasman, he was the first European to sight New Zealand, and he named it New Zealand after the Zeeland province in the Netherlands. British explorer James Cook, who's much more well known, he mapped the islands in the 1770s, and this was when the United Kingdom decided to stake a claim, and he made contact with the Maori people, sadly introducing a large number of diseases. Sadly, it's quite a typical story of colonization. The Treaty of Waitangi was signed in 1840 between the British Crown and the Maori chiefs, which signified well, there's a large debate on what it signified, but effectively it meant that Maori lost sovereignty over the lands of New Zealand. So, there were multiple conflicts, such as the New Zealand Wars, the Taranaki Wars between the Crown and the Māori. But over time, as the number of European population increased, which I am a part of, we transitioned into a more liberal democracy, progressive independent nation. We were actually the first nation in the world to allow women to vote. And we gained full sovereignty from the British Crown in 1947 following our efforts in World War II. New Zealand is an active member of multinational organizations like UN peacekeeping forces and combined task forces against piracy, for example. And interestingly, and I think this is quite relevant, New Zealand was one of the first countries to intervene in the Korean War in the form of the Commonwealth Brigade under Coad Basil, I think it was, or Basil Coad. So, as a person who's quite interested in the history of New Zealand, Korea, and military history, that's an interesting fact for me. In contemporary society, we've got, modern New Zealand. We're highly developed. We're a liberal democracy. We have low rates of corruption. We've got pretty good clean energy. I believe we have quite a high grid reliance, although sadly I don't have those figures with me. And we've got a multicultural society where we've managed to integrate Indigenous peoples into our governing system. Our economy is primarily based on agriculture, as I went over before, tourism and services. So we're quite lucky to have that. We garnered fame from our involvement in The Lord of the Rings, in making those movies, where Mordor is the geography of New Zealand, obviously. And sadly, though, due to our isolation from major trade routes, we're not blessed like a nation like Singapore to be in the way of those. So we have quite high cost of living expenses, which are created by those, since everything that gets shipped has to get shipped to here, can't really stop along the way. And we we face challenges like, housing affordability, workforce shortages, and youth migration to Australia, another Commonwealth nation just across the ditch, who pays our people pretty much twice as much. So that's a very large demographic crisis that New Zealand is facing. And we continue to play an active role in global issues with a strong emphasis on sustainability. And we're considered quite a leading nation on decolonial policy with regards to our native peoples. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink some water. So here I've got a map of Wellington. As you can see, Port City, we've got quite a large deep water port. I did my Seeds of Hope presentation on Predator-Free 2050 and specifically the initiative in Wellington. So we've pioneered an initiative called Predator-Free 2050, where we're attempting to eliminate all introduced predators in New Zealand that are threats to our native biodiversity. So like rats, stoats, and possums are some prevalent examples. So the project began on the Miro Peninsula, which you might be able to see is on the right-hand side of this map. It's this isolated mountainous area separated by a small spit with the airport in the middle from the rest of the city. And they were able to create an ecological dead zone where they were able to eliminate all of those pests. And since then, we've seen reintroduction of native species like tui, fantails, grey warblers, and luckily kiwi, which is probably a native New Zealand bird that some of you guys might be familiar with. I don't know. And now the initiative is expanding across the city, and it relies on community engagement where private citizens host traps on their property, which means there's not really many safe places for a rat to go. And I would say it's been quite a successful attempt at ecological restoration. I've got some media here. I might just go back to that at the end, actually. But we can see a topographical map of New Zealand. Here you can see in the North Island, we've got some pretty isolated volcanoes, Taranaki, Ruapehu Range, and then running up in this very strong alpine fault with all of these alluvial soils around the Waikato and northern Auckland, which is where our largest city is. They're very fertile for farming. And then you can see in the South Island, which contains like less than a quarter of our population, I believe, it's pretty less hospitable to life, although there is life there. I mean, there's quite a few people there, but the terrain is very difficult to navigate, and some of it is still just wild, untouched. And then so remarks. This is the end of my introductory presentation on New Zealand. I hope I provided for you students at Seo Young High School enough information to pique your interest. I'd like to thank the GG Summer School program for this opportunity and to connect with you youth from around the world, as I believe it's a really important action to achieve world peace. And I'd like to open up the floor to any questions, because that was all I really prepared on this.
Thanks for your presentation and introducing about yourself. And there are some students who want to talk with you, I think. 서영고등학교 학생들도 들어와 있는데, 뉴질랜드의 미로 친구가 자신에 대해 소개해 줬습니다. 혹시 질문 있으시면 자유롭게 해주시면 될 것 같아요.
Hi, I'm Celine. So I saw that you're really interested in military history and stuff like that. So I just wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on your diplomatic relationship between your country and Australia?
Between New Zealand and Australia, I would say we have one of the strongest, probably one of the strongest bilateral relationships in international relations. I mean, we're both English speaking, ex-British colonies. You know, between New Zealand and Australia, we're probably the only really similar cultures in this part of the world, in Oceania. And there's quite a bit of history where we were originally managed under the New South Wales colonial government. And since gaining independence, Australia actually has a clause in their constitution to allow New Zealand to become an autonomous territory at any time if we want. New Zealand has not chosen to do so, however. And we've got something, there's a concept called the Anzac spirit. So, and that comes from the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, who which was formed in World War I as an expeditionary force to go and fight in the Middle East. And since then it's fought in multiple other wars. And so, you know, I feel quite a strong brotherhood with that country across the ditch, although it has been a little bit more controversial recently, as they've been seemingly pinching a lot of our most skilled workers or students, but with their higher wages and more powerful economy. And actually, one of the resources I've got here, I believe, is related to that, if you'd like to watch it. Hold on. Can you see my screen?
Not now.
New Zealand.
Oh yeah, I'll play this video for you. I'll set it up, if that's all good. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
New Zealand. Alongside being the current reigning champion of places that people forget to put on maps, it's also an independent country. This independence did not occur through one single event like that of the United States. New Zealand.
Oh, sorry.
Alongside being the current reigning champion of places that people forget to put on maps, it's also an independent country. This independence did not occur through one single event like that of the United States, but through a century-long process of reform. And across this century, many were fairly sure that New Zealand would become a part of the new Commonwealth of Australia, in the same way that Quebec was obviously going to be a part of Canada, or how Bombay was obviously going to be part of India. Yet, as you'll know, this never happened. But why? Why isn't New Zealand a part of Australia? To begin, we have to go back to those ancient days of pre-Australia, sometimes called the mid-19th century. At this point, Australia wasn't one colony, but instead 6, and they were, as far as the British were concerned, a part of an 8-colony collective, the other 2 being Fiji and, of course, New Zealand. All of these colonies had different economies, different foreign interests, and different cultures, which is why, at first, many were opposed to federalisation. Things changed when Germany started eyeing up the region, which made those in the 8 colonies pretty nervous. And when the colony of New South Wales changed its mind about federalisation, the other colonies now feared being left out, and thus it was time to build an Australia. For New Zealand, this being cut off was less of a problem. Whilst New South Wales, Tasmania, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia and the other one may have traded primarily with each other, New Zealand traded mostly with Britain. There were other reasons for New Zealand rejecting federation too. The first was the massive distance between itself and Australia, which for reference is the same distance between Britain and Morocco. Another was that the drafting of the documents for Australian federation were done by those who lived in Australia, which might sound incredibly obvious, but New Zealand and Fiji weren't given an opportunity to contribute much to the discussions, and thus they were largely seen as places that would be added to Australia as opposed to a foundational part of it, which upset many New Zealanders who wanted to be seen as equals. And this lack of consideration for New Zealand's distinction is what mostly scuppered any chance of it being a part of Australia. You see, New Zealand had a long and storied history between the island's indigenous people, the Maori, and the European settlers, the Pakeha. And there were concerns that integration into Australia, a place not highly rated on the kindness to the people already living thereometer, would mean that the Maori would again be reduced to second-class citizens and importantly violate the Treaty of Waitangi, which as a result would lead to another war. There were fair reasons to believe this, since the draft constitution explicitly stated that the indigenous people were to be ruled over by the whites there, and New Zealand thus demanded that this not apply to them and that they would refuse to join unless Australia amended its constitution. which it agreed to. So why wasn't this enough? Well, it was mostly a concern by New Zealanders about the number of Chinese and Asian workers in Australia, and particularly the potential that those workers would head to New Zealand, which the leaders there really didn't want. And when Australia federated in 1901, it was these combined reasons that saw New Zealand sit it out, although there is still a clause in the Australian constitution that allows New Zealand to join whenever it wants, so the door is still open. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
I hope that provides a little bit of information on the topic. But, you know, essentially it boils down to the fact that the average New Zealander enjoys a better quality of life than the average Australian. And, you know, we might, some people think that might be jeopardized were we to have stronger relations with Australia. However, like as we've seen, you know, New Zealand's in a recession at the moment, and with the global financial crisis spurred on by COVID, like New Zealand has been less able to provide like a welfare system to its citizens, which has kind of reopened the floor for debate. But for now, you know, I think our you know, for example, our militaries effectively operate as one. Our economies are pretty closely tied together. However, we hang on to our independence very vehemently. Thanks. That was a good question.
혹시 서영고등학교 또 질문 있을까요?
네네.
아, 네네네.
Hi. What is your favorite thing about living in New Zealand?
Hi. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is your favorite thing about living in New Zealand?
Well, so that's a really good question, you know, because I mean, you can ask that to anyone in the world. But for New Zealand, I think we have quite a trustworthy society where the government is very open to the people, and vice versa, where there's not much subversive action being taken. You know, I mean, we're pretty famous. We have a lot of billionaires who live in the South Island because nothing happens, so it's very safe. It's very safe. So, for example, in Wellington, where we have the New Zealand Parliament, you're able to walk on the grounds. You're able to walk up to the steps of Parliament. There's no security, or there's like maybe one security guard, which I think is awesome because it is literally the house of the people. And you can also just like walk on in, and like if you go through the security, they'll let you into the Parliament, and you can just go up to your politicians and like tap them on the back, tell them what you think is wrong. So I think that's probably my favorite part of living in New Zealand. And I will say in the cities, it's a lot safer, but sadly in the regional areas where there's a bit more economic deprivation, like there's it can be a bit less safe. But I would say overall, it's that would be my favorite part. Yeah, the transparency and the safety.
I have a question too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I heard that New Zealand is very beautiful, has very beautiful nature, and I wonder if there are any special educational policies or the policies to protect nature in New Zealand.
Yeah, so that's a good question. What I would say is, first of all, with policies to protect nature, we've got a very strong Department of Conservation who runs a lot of national parks, and they work on protecting our biodiversity. And as a second part of that triangle of protection, you've got the Customs Agency who prevents the introduction of new predators or pests. And then as a third part, there's the educational element, which is upheld by the New Zealand citizens. And with regards to that, I guess I would say that like in primary school, intermediate, high school, there's a strong emphasis on education outside of the classroom, where you can take outdoor education, and you can go on many field trips, tramping trips, and there'll be an emphasis placed on stuff like they'll teach you how to make traps. They'll teach you how to properly clean your shoes to prevent you from spreading fungal diseases, for example, between trees. And like, I think they kind of drill it into us pretty well that the biodiversity is what makes New Zealand special. So if we don't protect that, we don't have much else, you know?
Yeah, thank you. And 혹시 또 질문이 있으시면 네, 그냥 마이크 켜고 말씀해 주셔도 돼요.
네. Hello. I have watched Lord of Rings many times, and I'm wondered if have you ever been to Hobbiton or any Lord of Rings filming locations?
That is a great question. So I love the Lord of the Rings. Sadly, I have not been to Hobbiton. I've been very close to it. It's in a place called Hamilton, which is it's one of the places you fly over on the way to Auckland from Wellington. So it's a bit of a mission to get there. But I've heard I've seen the photos. It's pretty beautiful. But what's quite interesting about living in Wellington is that's where Weta Workshop Studios, which is the studio that filmed Lord of the Rings, is located. So a lot of the filming locations are just around the city and close by. So I believe I've been to the scene where the Nazgul is where Frodo and like the other guy are hiding from the Nazgul. I've been to Rivendell, which is like kind of to the north of the city, and that's located along this beautiful national park. But no, I haven't been to Hobbiton. I could screen share some photos of the Rivendell site though, which is like about an hour's drive out of Wellington. Can you see this?
Yes.
Oh. So they've left all these stone arcs here, and it's quite beautiful, I think. But yeah, it was a big economic boost for Wellington. I mean, it brought in billions of dollars, and since then we've had a pretty thriving film industry, where they call it Wellywood, which is a play on Hollywood, obviously. And yeah, like Avatar was made in Wellington. So with our interesting biodiversity, that is like a really great way we can play to our strengths by becoming like a really rich filming location for lots of movies. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. And are you in high school right now?
Yeah. I'm year 12, so I have like one more year of high school. We're on holiday right now in the winter. And so I've pretty much gotten everything I need for university entry. And next year I'm just going to be doing scholarship applications and stuff, which is mainly how it works, because they only actually care about your year 12 when you're 17. And then when you're 18, that's more just getting ready for uni.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
혹시 또 질문 있으신 걸까요?
네.
네. They have a question. Do you have more questions?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Could I ask you a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
Of course, why not?
Where is Seoyeon High School?
It's located in Seongnan. It's close to Seoul. The
Yeah.
city. It's the capital city.
So, are you guys connected to the Seoul public transport system?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the buses that goes here and also Seoul. start with them.
Yeah. As youth, do you guys this is a question for all of you. Do you find it hard to like get around the city? Like, is it quite accessible for youth, or is it more difficult? For example, are there like price concessions for youth on public transport?
Actually, it's not that difficult. Okay. There are a lot of information actually. They're accessible. It's pretty accessible.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
pretty accessible. And I also have a question for you.
Yeah,
But
yeah, sure.
I want to know if I don't want to know what the weather is like there right now.
Oh, like, so generally it's the winter, so the weather usually hits like 2 degrees at night. Sometimes it'll dip below freezing, but you know, the water doesn't freeze or anything. And in the daytime gets to about 16 to 20 degrees. I can also, it's pretty sunny right now, a little bit overcast. I can also just like take my laptop outside and just show you like what it's currently like in Wellington.
Okay. Well, we hold them.
I mean, as you can see, it's very sunny. It's quite warm today. Actually, one unique aspect of the weather of Wellington is that New Zealand in general is because we're located so close to the South Pole, we get these like massive southerlies coming in from of these Antarctic chilled winds, which can make it really cold on the south coast and really hot on the north coast. But also because we're so close to Antarctica, there's some of you might know this, or you probably do know this, there's the hole in the ozone layer, which means if you spend time outside in the sun, the UV light is a lot harsher on your skin. So it'll age and damage your skin a lot faster. So you can get sunburn in like 2 minutes. So that's something that I've heard is quite different from the Northern Hemisphere, for example. Sorry, did that answer your question?
Pretty much. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also thank you for touring your house. But please be careful with your camera.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm hiding all of like the dirty dishes and stuff behind the camera.
And there was a question in your blog that someone's just posted. I will read it for you. Hi, my name is Soyeon Bae from South Korea. I read the post well. Is there any other city or region in Korea that you would like to visit?
Yeah, there is. There's two actually that I've been reading about. I'd like to visit Sejong because I've heard it's like a planned city, right? So they built it from the ground up. I've heard that there's like the government complex building there is pretty interesting. It's like a really long building, right, or something. But it's kind of located in a valley, like surrounded by these mountains, right? Because they built it to be strategically defensible. And then I actually, when I last went to Korea in 2023, we didn't spend much time in Busan, and I'd quite like to go there. And I'd really like to visit the UN cemetery because there's a soldier who's buried there who went to my high school.
And you came to Korea in 2023 for your Jamboree, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How was it?
It was really good. Yeah. I mean, obviously there was quite a bit of controversy surrounding the management of that by the Korean government, but I had a great time. You know, I was pretty young. I met it was like 60,000 people. So I was living in a small provincial region of New Zealand since then, which was quite like a closed-minded society. And when I went to South Korea and I met like hundreds and hundreds of people from literally all over the world, that was like a real eye-opening experience for me. Like I seriously just did not know that existed. And that was like what kickstarted my interest in international relations and stuff when we got to visit some of the embassies. And like, so as I told you earlier, like New Zealand was only founded like 800 years ago. So when you go to Seoul and there's like, what's it called? Is it Gyeongbokgung? Like the palace? Like that's older than New Zealand. So that was pretty insane. But yeah, so it was a really interesting experience. And like it's still affecting my life. I mean, that's how I found out about this program. So yeah. And like I'm interested in Korean history. Like I just bought this book,
Oh,
which
that's
is
cool.
yeah. Yeah. And like K-pop and stuff because we had the massive K-pop Super Live concert, which is cool. Yeah. But yeah, the World Scout Jamboree was like a once in a lifetime experience, for better or for worse. But I had a good time. Other people maybe not so much, but like I didn't mind it, to be honest. The food was really interesting as well. Like we eat a lot of like lamb and stuff here, a lot of sea. But sorry.
뭐 전공하고
So it was interesting like to see the traditional foods of Korean culture. Like the one that I really like is bindae cheok. It's like the rice pancakes or the mung bean pancakes. Like I make those all the time. It's like an easy food. So it's like yeah.
호주에 그 마마이트? 라고 술을 그것도 물어보고 일단 그거 한번 물어봐요.
So what do you want to major when you go to university?
That's a good question. I think I've been thinking about that a lot, but I'm probably gonna do. So Wellington has quite a good university called Victoria University. It's pretty renowned for like its law and its humanities and sciences. So I thought about doing global studies, so entry-level international relations, as well as either history or chemistry, because those are probably my best subjects. So, but it's looking more like history at the moment, just because I love it. Yeah.
고맙다. 네가 아까 그 한국 음식 얘기해서 그런데
Can I ask you? Sorry, can I ask you guys a question? What are you guys on holiday at the moment?
I want to ask a question to you. So you talked about your favorite Korean dishes.
Oh yeah.
We want to ask you about New Zealand dishes.
Like,
I heard there's a bread called Marmite.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's made from should I get some?
oh yeah, of course, I know. 이게 호불호가 굉장히 심한 스프레드라고 알고 있거든. 근데 너는 좋아하냐고. 약간 그잼 같은 건데 이게 약간 맛이 적당한 거예요.
Okay. So Marmite is made, it's like this black stuff. It smells, well, I like the smell. So it's like a traditional breakfast dish in New Zealand. You have it on your toast as a spread. It's made from like so when you make beer, you have like all this stuff left over, like from the yeast. I think it's called like the SCOBY or like the mush. And so you let that ferment and it gets really like stinky and it smells like salt. And I guess you could say it's like the New Zealand version of kimchi. And like it kind of has this reputation internationally as being something that's like super gross, but like I like it. It's like a nice little salty treat, Actually, I'm gonna eat some right now. But like you have to be careful because like 1 tablespoon is like enough sodium to last you for like a week. So you can't really eat too much. But you can see I'm being like it's like this fermented black paste made out of yeast and like wheat and stuff. And it's quite nice. It's also just like a palate cleanser. So it's really good. And if you ever come to New Zealand or if you ever have the opportunity in South Korea, I would definitely recommend buying some Marmite. That's all I have to say on it.
I'm actually interested in the flavor. Curious.
Sorry?
I'm interested in Marmite actually. I'm curious about the flavor, but it's also controversial. So I don't know if I should try it or not. Would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend it. I mean, you just have like for breakfast every morning, you just need to have 2 pieces of white toast, a little bit of Marmite, a little bit of butter on that, and it's delicious. I would recommend it. Definitely don't eat it like raw like I just did, or it'll definitely like overwhelm your palate. But the flavor it's kind of has like imagine I don't know if you guys are like allowed to know what this flavor is, but imagine the flavor of beer, but really strong, and then like just super salty with like a little bit like fermented in there, and it's like that's like the only way I can really explain it. You know, it has its own flavor. It's Marmite. So if you get the chance, definitely eat some Marmite. Do you mind if I ask what year are you guys in at high school?
We're in high school and we're in 2nd grade in high school in Korea. So we are like 17.
Oh yeah.
Same as you?
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I need to drink some water after that.
You're fine?
Sorry?
Are you okay? Okay.
Oh yeah. No, some other New Zealand foods. We have quite a strong citrus industry. I was talking about earlier, we have lamb is quite a traditional food, beef. A lot of our land is used for is it horticulture, culture of animals, and actually quite a strong wine industry as well. Yeah.
Hi, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so from your previous presentation, we've learned that so many nature was kept untouched, and Lord of the Rings was framed in New Zealand, and although it is isolated from the major trade routes, it continues to play an active role. So I was wondering if there is a special way you think among culture or people for New Zealand to develop like this?
So that's actually a great question. So talking about cultures, starting back with the Maori, who are the indigenous peoples of New Zealand, we've got they were part of Polynesia, so around the South Pacific, these great seafaring nations of peoples who started, I believe, in Taiwan, and they colonized the entire South Pacific. So they have a very strong maritime tradition, and they were used to living in these nations with limited resources. So they developed this culture of managing resources called Matauranga Māori, which looked like sustainable fisheries management, for example. And then, sadly, when the Māori were colonized by the British, which is still ongoing, there was much conflict, but the British, I mean, when you think of naval tradition, you think of the British. So the fact that we were a part of the British Empire for maybe 100, 150 years, means we had access to a lot of subsidized sea travel, for example. Since we're like a free market capitalist state, and there's no other option since we don't produce our own manufactured goods, we kind of have to buy them from like China, the United States and South Korea and Japan and stuff. We just have to pay the extra fees to get it shipped to us. which just means higher cost of consumer goods in New Zealand. But you know, the stereotypical archetype of a New Zealander is like an English farmer who lives out in the bush, in the rainforest, and he has his flock of sheep, and he eats spoons of Marmite and raw steak for dinner every night, and he doesn't know about the outside world. So, but like, you know, since air travel has come in, New Zealand has become a lot more multicultural. Up in Auckland, there's a thriving Asian community, so it's a bilingual city where Chinese is spoken quite a lot. And in Wellington, interestingly, we have quite a lot of refugees, because we take quite a lot of international refugees from other nations. There's a lot of Somalis, a lot of Afghanis in Wellington, Kurds, but I would say, I mean, with our rugged, untouched terrain, New Zealanders have that reputation of being kind of adventurous, although as with anywhere in the world, I think you'd see a very wide range of people here. And I think that's part of what makes life so great. You know, you'll meet anyone. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Thank you for your answer.
All good.
What's your favorite K-pop song?
Okay. What's my favorite K-pop song? That's a hard one. It's probably ETA by New Jeans.
That's good.
Because I got to listen to that live. Or Gangnam Style, but like that's more like that's world famous. So I mean, everyone's gonna say Gangnam Style, but yeah, I actually like New Jeans quite a lot.
Your favorite member?
Oh, this is really bad, but I don't know the members.
That's okay. Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, go for it.
So if you could like sightsee only one cultural relic from Korea, what would it be?
Is this like a place or an object?
Place.
A place? I think it would be interesting to look at that's a really good question. What's the city that's located I think in the north, that's just like to the north of the DMZ, and it used to be the ancient capital of Korea. I think like I read there that there's like the last Buddhist temple in the Democratic People's Republic, and like, you know, so you have this clash of ancient Korean like tradition with you know, this Korean sect of Buddhist monks who live their regular Buddhist life, and literally, you know, across the field from them is like the demilitarized zone, and there's like all of this like, you know, militarized stuff. So there's like this clash between the ancient Korean history and the modern, and I think that really like exemplifies like the current Korean situation, where you've got all of these like traditional values and stuff, but it's also like being forced to conflict with the world as you guys have like globalized following like the 1950s. I hope that's okay that I gave an example that's in the north. I know that's probably unconventional. I can give an example from the south as well, and if I was going to give one from the south, I would say it would be like probably like the Bukchon Hanok village in Seoul. Yeah.
How'd you get interested in history and military stuff?
That's a great question. Oh man, what a question. Well, it's like you gotta learn something, you know. But I guess I consider history to be like history is not this archaic, irrelevant thing. I mean, it's like it's it happened. That's why it's history. So if you can study history, it can help you to understand like what's happening in the world today. And like that was something I appreciated when I went to the World Scout Jamboree, and I was able to meet all these people from around the world. And it's like, I knew a little bit about, say, British history or Welsh history, which meant when I talked to these people from the other side of the world that I had never spoken with, I already had something in common because we could talk about the history of that place. And so for me, history isn't actually about the past. It's about how I can use it in the present. So yeah, and with military history, I mean, there's just like a lot of great movies and video games out there, like Hearts of Iron 4 and stuff, and War Thunder. So I used to play that quite a bit, but yeah. Now I'm really more into like the academic side of it. Yeah.
Thank you for answering. So do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do. So I guess the first question I had, and I already did ask this on the GG Summer platform, but it was like, as Korean youth, how do you feel about like being the generation that's going to inherit Korea?
Sorry, pardon?
How do you feel about being the generation that's going to inherit the Republic of Korea?
Oh, well, for me personally, I don't think Korea's future is not that great. Honestly, I don't have a positive way of thinking, but I think it's really important for us to be educated and think well about the future. And also, like you, I think learning history and learning all the ways that we could, communicate with other countries, that I think that is very important too. So I would like to say that it's really honoring to be like being able to be the future of Korea. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, like that's the problem faced by all youth the world around, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to put up with the previous generations' accomplishments and misadventures, but it's like, yeah. So a question I had actually, what are you guys thinking of studying? And like, is university like subsidized for Korean students, for example?
We're in high school, so the subjects we learn is actually really similar to you, but like we learn basic stuff like math, science, and social studies too, and languages such as English and Korean studies. But it really differs from student to student because like we're all interested in other stuff. So some students only study science while others focus more on social studies.
Yeah, so there is actually quite a lot of freedom for you guys then to choose your subjects.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways we could choose.
I've heard there's like a lot of academic pressure in Korea, especially in high schools.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that like how much of your time does school take up?
Well, for me, most of my day, to be honest. But it differs. But for me, like after school, I have to go to academies and study. So it takes basically our whole day in life, to be honest. What about you?
So I guess it's also on a case-by-case status here in New Zealand. Like depending on the student, you can be really as academic as you want. If you're like really gifted in a subject, you can go and start university early, or you can go up here and do a higher level of high school. For me, I'm just in the one I'm supposed to be in. But like school only for me usually takes up just the 6 hours that I'm at school, and I maybe only do like 2.5 hours of homework a week, which is like not good. But it's just because I can do my assessments in class. Although like we have an exam period at the end of the year around Christmas when we're gonna have to I'm gonna have to lock in. I'm gonna have to do my study, like do all my revision. But I have a lot of free time, which allows me to pursue like my interests, like debating. I work a lot with international students, and I would have 2 jobs, and I do volunteering at a soup kitchen, which means like I think it's good because there's a lot of room for personal development, and because as long as you're passing your grades in New Zealand, you're pretty much guaranteed entry into a university of your choice in New Zealand for the subjects that you're strongest in. I think it's really good that like in high school we have like a bit more time to like do some like personality building stuff. But sometimes I also wonder, because I think the average New Zealander is actually pretty uneducated, and like I think that's like the reason like this is just my personal opinion, this is like the reason we've seen like economic and political stagnation in our country. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the domestic politics of New Zealand, but high school is pretty great here. And also we have people who can drop out and do trades or whatever, or you can go to the army, or yeah.
Seriously? That sounds so cool.
Yeah, I feel lucky, but
Thank you for answering all the questions we had.
yeah, no worries. Thanks for talking to me, you guys.
Oh, I think they need to get their lunch because it's lunchtime in Korea.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, but finally, do you have something to tell them?
Yeah. Or like some closing remarks. Like from one student to another, I would just say like, oh man, this is tough, but like just remember that like your studies or like how you compare yourself to other people doesn't define who you are. And like it's a massive world, so like don't stress too much and just like follow. I know it sounds corny as hell, but like just follow your dreams and stuff, and like it'll be fine. Yeah. Like like don't worry about what other people think, because like there's like 12 billion people on the planet, so it's like can't really care what most people think. So just like do your best. Yeah. Oh, and also if you ever travel to New Zealand, don't have any biological products like fruits or anything in your backpack, because they will make you pay like a $2,000 fine, because they're really strict about that stuff because it can contaminate our environment. So there's some practical advice for you guys.
Thanks for participating this program with us today. And I hope you had a good time too. So I think we need to finish it right now.
Okay.
Thanks for participating today. 네, 그럼 이제 마무리하도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Bye.
감사합니다.
Have a nice day.